So first thing, Casey, I wanted to thank you for spending some time with me today. I know you're incredibly busy, and I know that it's year end and you're really supposed to be focused on closing business with all of our great clients. So what I do want to understand is maybe have you elaborate a little bit on how we got to this project with this client and how specifically 3PAR really came to bear.
Sure thing. Well, I'm happy to be here with you, Adam. Customer was really trying to virtualize their SQL environment for some time, but the current infrastructure just wasn't providing them with the results that they were looking for. So I went ahead and engaged you to help architect a solution that would better fit their needs and allow them to start moving forward with that initiative.
Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of background on the deal, what made you think of 3PAR specifically as a good fit for this project?
Sure. So to be honest, initially I wasn't thinking about 3PAR. My thought pattern was more along the lines of the PolyServe solution that we had met with them about a year and a half ago. Once I spoke with you, it became quite clear that 3PAR was really the way to go, specifically when mixed with the value that VMware vSphere would provide.
So it sounds like to me that the business objectives that we were focusing on was creating a more highly available yet more agile and nimble environment, and that can be very difficult. What were some of the client's pain points and some of the things that they were focused on and things that kept them up at night with this kind of a project?
Sure, I'd say the number one concern was in regards to high availability and also resiliency of the chosen platform, whatever that was going to be from a storage perspective. I'd say secondly was maintaining the service levels that they currently had while also providing performance improvement. And third, I would say, was focused around efficiency and making sure that they had a solid foundation to build upon in the future.
Okay, so I can tell they were focused on availability, performance, and efficiencies. Can we spend a minute and have you tell everybody how 3PAR really set itself aside in the high availability area?
You know, I'd say it's the physical hardware itself, the way that it approaches physical system redundancy, software and data availability, as well as replication and DR. It really set it aside from its competitors in the marketplace as a best-of-breed solution.
Sounds good to me, although you know what, the geeky stuff usually does. So can you maybe spend a minute or two and let everyone know how 3PAR really managed to set themselves aside in the areas of performance?
Yeah, I'd say it's the system's ability to virtualize all resources installed inside of it to all applications at all times is really what showed the customer that 3PAR was built with server virtualization in mind.
No surprise to me there, as the guys who actually built and engineered 3PAR from the ground up were specialists for how server clusters access storage. And while server clusters, 10 years ago might not have been VMware clusters, they did need the same kind of features and capabilities. So now that we've talked about that, let's focus on something that's maybe not as hot and as sexy. How does 3PAR really set itself aside in areas of efficiencies when it comes to storage?
3PAR actually pioneered thin provisioning, and it's actually built into the DNA and physical architecture, which makes them far more efficient in this particular feature. And the end result is clients see as much as a 50% capacity savings compared to other solutions within the marketplace.
Sounds like a really compelling story to me, one that really resonates with clients. Can you take a couple of minutes and talk about the anatomy of the deal, how we managed to engage with the client, what value we managed to show them with 3PAR, and then of course, how that first smaller deal shook out and the size of it?
The initial meeting was with yourself, obviously, and the Carlson team, the IT director and director of data management. Initially, they wanted to hear about the PolyServe solution, but at that particular time, you let them know that 3PAR was a much better way to go, why it was a better way to go, and why it was different than other storage solutions within the marketplace. Definitely piqued their interest. We then scheduled a demo on site at the HP headquarters here in Toronto. They were blown away by the demo, and specifically in regards to the ease of management. That therefore led to them issuing a PO for one particular solution, which was to host a specific end user's web application. The initial PO was for about $180,000 in hardware, which consisted of F400 as well as a C7000, and led to an incremental purchase from VMware and Microsoft of about $5,000 GP with a small professional services engagement for the VMware piece.
Wow, so what you're saying is you had around $200,000 in revenue with close to $30,000 in GP.
Yes.
It's a pretty healthy deal if you ask me.
It was nice.
Especially, a first deal where sometimes reps have to be a little bit more aggressive with their pricing. Can you talk about how we managed to really grow that first project into the larger one we just booked, how we really managed to engage with the client, and what drove the ability to bring that deal in so quickly?
I'd say there were three factors that were key in the customer moving forward. One was the success of the initial project. From the date that the gear was on site, it took us about 10 days after that to get the gear into full production and present it to the end user's web application. Secondly was the fact that we had done a VMware capacity planner. That gave us a strong foundation to make recommendations off of as far as what their consolidation ratios would look like. And I'd say third was the fact that Florent was involved and did some SQL benchmark testing that allowed us to give the customer certain assurances as far as what performance improvements they would see. The overall solution ended up being 3 blade chassis, about 20 blades. We moved them from a F400 up to a V400, and the overall revenue for the deal ended up being over $1 million from a hardware perspective, which was about $175,000 in GP. This also led to an incremental amount of $30,000 GP for the Microsoft and VMware portions, as well as we're anticipating about 4 months of professional services in the neighborhood of $100,000 revenue and about $25,000 GP. So as a whole, the deal could net us about $250,000 GP when it's all said and done.
That's pretty solid.
Not too bad.
So all in all, this sounds like it's going to be around $1.7 million in revenue with more than $250,000 in gross profit in just around 3 months. That's a pretty lucrative deal to ink near the end of the year, you got to say. Now, if I think really hard, this account does bring up other memories. It brings up vague memories of mid-year sales training about 4 or 5 months ago when we were in Phoenix, in which Steve McDonald actually asked reps to come up and call out accounts in which they were going to bring HP converged infrastructure and really try to show the value of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you actually called out Carlson Marketing in that example, didn't you?
Yes, that's very true.
Wow, well, interesting how calling out accounts that you can strategize on, showing them the business value SoftChoice can bring, and learning how to leverage your resources can yield such massive results. I guess our senior level management team isn't as crazy as they sound, are they?
No, I guess not.